Broadcasting live worldwide. Welcome.
Are you ready? Welcome. Señoras y señores, welcome
a Diálogo con Luis Otero. So welcome to a new episode of Dialogo with Luis Otero. This is your host, Luis Otero. Thank you so much to all the over 100,000 listeners that we have worldwide. I want to say thank you so much to all of you worldwide that always are tuning in and all the reviews that you guys are leaving. So I want to say thank you so much. And our more than 97,000 followers in Instagram and all the social media platforms. Thank you so much for your time and for taking always the time to listen to the amazing podcasts and episodes that we have. Today, I think that I created this podcast just to have conversations with people that they have inspired me in my career. And today is a very special episode. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. My guest today, she's the most successful female voice actress, I think, of all time. She have, give life to, I think, characters that they are such... that they live in our hearts every single day. The voice actress that I have today is a legend. She have give life to the amazing Chuckie Finster in Rugrats, and we're going to talk about that today. She have give life to the amazing Bart Simpson in The Simpsons. She's just a hero to a lot of people and an amazing woman that I truly respect. Today with me in Dialogue with Luis Otero, I have the amazing and the one and only Nancy Cartwright. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, Nancy. Such a great pleasure to have you.
It is so much my pleasure, Luis. I really respect the audience. You have so many incredible listeners, mostly Latino, and I love that. It is kind of like my business partners. I know we're going to get into this, sure, but I kind of feel like they have a hidden agenda. I'm just going to drop this in here because they're all from Mexico, and I sort of feel like they're trying to turn me into a Mexican, and I kind of love that. Hablo un poquito de español. Tomo huevos en el desayuno y pan tostado. I'm trying to learn. I wish I could speak Spanish. I wish I would have known when I was in Kettering, Ohio, that learning to speak Spanish was going to help me in my future, because living in Los Angeles, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I wish I spoke fluent Spanish right now.
No, but it's awesome because you have great partners too, that they're helping you along the way.
They're incredible. They're incredible. We can touch on that for sure.
No, it's awesome to have you. You're such an inspiration and such a legend. You have contributed and done so much for the world with your characters, and you've been, I think, and a lot of people will agree with me in the thousands that they listen to us. You're the best voice actress, I think, of all time, giving life to the amazing Bart Simpson and many other characters on The Simpsons. But today, obviously, talking about Chuckie Finster. Oh my God, what a great Chuckie Finster from the Rugrats. It's just wonderful because you come from Kettering, Ohio. You come from, the Midwest, very good, area to live. You grow up, in your environment with your mom and dad, Frank, Miriam, and you go to school. And when you go to school, you learn the talents that you have with your voice. And then when you go to Ohio University and you decide basically to leave for Los Angeles and be mentored by the amazing Daws Butler, and you live in a very sad note, but that note changed your life. Unfortunately, your mom passed away, and it was a very impactful time in your life. But when you go to Los Angeles, basically your life changed. How was that childhood, and where you got the inspiration to go as a voice actress and just change our lives?
Yeah, you know what I did? It's like, for one thing, I'm just going to throw credit to my mom and dad, is that they never stopped any of us kids from being as creative as we were. They encouraged creativity, and we were involved with the parks and recreation. I learned about, when I was 10 years old, I had to decide between taking an art class or doing music. It was one or the other, because there was, it would be an extracurricular kind of a class. And I chose music. So at age 10, I learned how to play the trumpet. And I loved that because I was the only girl trumpet player amongst these 10-year-olds. And it was fun. and I loved it. And we had a concert, and I played Lover's Concerto, and I, in front of the whole class and my family, and that was fun. And I continued to play trumpet throughout high school and got in the marching band, and I was in the orchestra, and that's where years later, 13 some years later, Dun 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 Dun, Dun Eat My Shorts ended up being on 13 million t-shirts or something, because that was an expression that I said in the marching band. But it's like I always did things that I loved. Luis, it's like I had an opportunity, and again, you'd mentioned it. It was living in the Midwest. It was a fantastic place to grow up. Any kid in Kettering, Ohio, it was south of Dayton, between Dayton and Cincinnati, below Columbus, and it's like I just did things that I loved. I was on the gymnastics team. I was on the speech team. I was in theater, marching band. I did everything that I loved, and I think that was the key to a lot of my success. And I continue to tell people today, do what you love, because if you're doing something because you think if I do this I'll get really rich, good luck, because there's no guarantees. The thing about doing what you love is it fills a passion in your heart. It's like you're nurturing a muse inside of you that's and whether it has to do with art, or if you really want to, my passion is I want to be a mom. Someday I want to be the best mom there is, or I love design. And I love working with wood. I'm going to be a contractor. It doesn't matter, but just make sure you love what it is that you do. And I think that was a real successful, I know that was a very much a successful action for me, as I always did what I loved, and I was never stopped.
And you never have stopped, because you're an actress, you're a painter, you're a sculptor, you're a business partner, you're an entrepreneur. You wear so many hats, and you always have been very passionate about it, in all your levels of your life. And you're a mother of two as well, that I can't imagine how, impressive and difficult sometimes could be, just having the career that you have and being able to pursue your passions plus being a mother. How you have balanced, Nancy, taking an example, a role like Chuckie that you mentioned, that is one of your most challenging, or the challenge, or the biggest challenge in your career as the role as Chuckie, when you took it, and after Christine Cavanaugh decides to retire in 2002. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2014. But it have to be very difficult as a mother and a professional, be able to juggle so many hats. How you were able to find the time for that passion and be able just to fulfill, that mission of being a mother in the entertainment business?
Yeah, well, part of it was that the fellow that I married was a great dad. He was a terrific dad, and he was a stay-at-home dad. I came along, and like that was our relationship, is that I brought my career paid for all the fun and games, and Murphy got to stay home and be with the kids, and they were always with one of us. And it's so funny, because when I look back, we didn't go on huge vacations. We just created a lot of stuff at our house. We lived in an area of Los Angeles and lived up on a hill, and we had an amazing view, but the backyard, it was a big back patio. They were just, between 0 and 5 years old for my son, and Lucy was a couple years older than that. We just created a magic land there. We had swings inside the house. Instead of outside in the yard, we had swings that were attached to the beams. There was an elevated space that was meant to be, a TV viewing area, but we had little baby swings in there. We had a pool table where the dining table was supposed to be.
Sure.
And we had a big jukebox, and they played dress up and fashion show, and they did gymnastics and took the cushions off the couch and just jumped up and down. And it was fun and games with my kids, and I think created an environment that we could literally bounce with. So my kids were, when I went off to go do the Simpsons, or to go do any of the other shows that I was doing at the time, because prior to the Simpsons, I'm trying to think, but that's before my kids were born. It's just I was single at the time, and that wasn't it was that was my life. It was like going from My Little Pony to Glow Friends to Snorks, Galaxy High, all these animated shows. And then when the family started, incorporating the family, but I had such support, from him. So that was fantastic. And as I grew and my kids grew, I took on other challenges for myself of other things that I really wanted to do. And somehow I incorporated, I don't know if balance is people are always saying, how do you find balance? That's the $64 million question. Is there such a thing as balance? I don't know that there really is. It's kind of like you kind of have to prioritize, and you have to look at these different dynamics that you're dealing with. Like, I need some time for myself. That's over there. Now I've got to dedicate some time to my family. I've got to make sure that I keep that plate spinning. And then there's the groups that I belong to, whether it's a parent group or a church group. I've got to make sure it's kind of like, I'm certainly dating myself when I say this, but if you can imagine an entertainer that has a 6-foot tall rod, like a dowel, and on top of that dowel, he takes a china plate and he sets it on there and he spins this plate. So that's my kids, and this one is just me and my husband, and this one is me and the PTA, and this one is me and my volunteer work. The one with the family is slowing down. It's about ready to fall. I got to go back and spin that plate again. Sure. So somehow it's a game of how to keep all those plates spinning, because if one crashes, I'm telling you, they're all going to crash. You can call that balance, I suppose, but it's really a matter of how do you give attention as it's needed so that area doesn't fall behind.
Yeah, and it's amazing how you just said it, Nancy, because in your career you've always been so busy. In 1989, life changes. I think around those times when you become the voice of Bart Simpson and the Simpsons with Matt Groening and everything. But then in 2002, you landed Chuckie. And if I'm not mistaken, in 2002, when you start to voice Chuckie, you have been already a very successful, voice actress with, I think a wonderful run that still goes to this day, because every single 15 seconds I check, the Simpsons are somewhere in the world. But then you enter to another amazing franchise like the Rugrats that they recently, in May 27, Paramount Plus just released it. That is an amazing season. Everyone gotta go to Paramount Plus. It's just amazing. And then you voice Chuckie and you give life to this beautiful, character that have just lived in the hearts of so many, because Chuckie is a little bit shy, but he wants to basically accomplish a lot in life. And it just brings that very nice cuteness of, how sometimes we feel. Do you think that when Chuckie is given to you, because, you were hired on the spot and they said, Nancy, you're the right person for Chuckie after Christine Cavanaugh decides to leave. Do you saw yourself or a little bit of that Midwest girl in Chuckie, and that's why you took it to heart and you have been able to provide such a great life to this character?
Oh, Louise. Oh, you are so adorable. Oh my gosh. No, I didn't see myself like that. I was a gal who, at Bart's age, at age 10, I stood in front of a group of people and I competed in a contest. It was a prose and poetry reading contest, and I took a little something that wasn't even funny. It was just a little what do you call it? It's How the Camel Got His Hump, and it was just a little short story, not a short story, fable, and it tells you the story of that. And it wasn't funny, but the way that I did it, I realized that I was saying, the camel had one line and it was humph, and I had short hair but like these bangs, and when I did it I threw my head forward, and at one time when I did it I knocked over the microphone and everybody laughed, and it didn't throw me, but I got a laugh, and I realized, wow, I can make people laugh. This is incredible. And I stood up and I carried on, and I ended up winning the contest. And I said, wow, I like this. So I started to pursue an avenue, and it wasn't, I'm trying to think prior to that, when I was really little, when I was 5, when I look at videos of me and my family, I wasn't the class clown by any means. I wasn't like Robin Williams, or, I couldn't identify with that so much. But I could tell jokes, and I could do sound effects that would make people laugh. So I couldn't really relate to Chuckie so much. To me, it was an opportunity to join a successful family that had established themselves already, not unlike the Simpsons. And it's almost like having a guest come on to the Simpsons. I had compassion for them because, by 1995, we were hugely successful already.
Yeah.
And to have a guest come onto the show, it's like they had such respect for us, and I felt some actors, without naming names, were a little bit intimidated maybe by who we were. So here I am stepping into this family of babies that had already been working together for 10 years. And now I'm brought in, and I feel kind of like I'm sort of like the guest, except I was going to be part of their family now. Yeah. So maybe I'm like their adopted family member. That's incredible. And what that must feel like. So I don't know. That was a little challenging for me, because I know that as a group, the Simpsons, we were tight as an ensemble. And when a guest would come in, we'd have lots of admiration for Tom Jones or for Meryl Streep or J.K. Simmons when they come in to do these guest starring roles. And now here I am in that position. But I wanted to be able to deliver the goods. I was hired to do a job. And so the pressure was, how am I going to do that when Chris Cavanaugh had already established such a memorable, complicated character? And again, I wasn't a shy kid growing up. I was adventurous, So that was my challenge, and it's one of the milestones in my career that I have to say was one of the largest challenges I ever had. Going into a group of really such amazing talent, Kath Soucie, E.G. Daily, Cree Summer, Cheryl Chase. It's like these gals are so incredibly talented, and Nancy Cartwright's joining the family. And they were, it took a while. I wanted to do private sessions because I felt like I was holding them up a little bit, because Chuckie was so complicated. I had to get the emotional, kind of breaking him down. He was always afraid of everything, and plus that he had an adenoidal thing that was going on here, and there was a little fear that was involved, and every now and then he would get very angry like that, And it took some time to develop and find my own way, and they were extremely patient with me and forgiving. So it knock on wood, it all worked out. It worked out pretty well, I have to say.
It worked out tremendously well, and it's incredible how you're being able to, create these amazing voices, and you being a voice actress, and I think that, the best of all time in this area of work, and just being so, surrounded by tremendous, professionals like E.G. Daily, you mentioned, and many others. How do you approach an example? Just you being established with The Simpsons, giving life to so many characters like Bart Simpson, the legendary one, and then you come to that ensemble, and basically you have Chuckie. How do it takes time that when someone have created a character and be able to mold that voice and give your shot and the best for you to give life to Chuckie, because it worked out pretty well. But like you mentioned, it was challenging because it was a different scenario. Like you were able to grow into like The Simpsons. So when you go in, like how were those first few days when you were starting to give life to Chuckie, and you were like, oh my God, I really am holding the ensemble and the cast, and I want to have a private sessions in order for me to be able to be more comfortable. But how you were able to overcome that, because then after that, everything flew like like an airplane going to France, like perfectly. So how that basically, clicked in when with the character of Chuckie?
Well, I'm trying to think how to answer this simply. I'm not sure there's a simple answer for it other than saying it just took time for me to do that. I had to get my own confidence. My own confidence had to be developed. It's not something that I went in and said, I got this, I can totally do this, because he was created before by somebody who developed a sound and a whole character that was in the hearts and minds of all the public of all the fans of the show. And here now, Chris is gone, and Nancy steps in, and I've criticized, and I hear the difference when other actors have passed on, and there's a replacement, and I can certainly tell the difference, because there are people that can do imitations, and you hear that's, there's a lot of talented people out there. It's never going to be perfect. It's never ever going to be perfect, but there's got to be enough of a duplication that the public says, wow, that's pretty good. And they're more excited about it than they are saddened by it. In other words, it's not distracting to them, that they can still have the show with this new Chuckie or new, Kermit the Frog, or new Captain Crunch, or whatever. Do you follow me, Luis?
Correct, of course, definitely.
Yeah, so that was one aspect of it, is that I had a responsibility to duplicate that sound and character that Chris had so beautifully put there. And then the other challenge was just the fact that, I felt pressure, maybe that I couldn't help but put on myself, is that I felt like, it almost felt like I was taking her job away from her. And I don't know that, I was, all of a sudden, it's like I was brought in, and I didn't know how much the other actresses knew, but it just felt uncomfortable to me to be this replacement. And I didn't say anything to them. Instead I talked to the producers, and I said, I want you to know something. I have thought about this long and hard, and they had offered me the part. After all I went through kind of like, I went to the studio and I did it with the other actresses, but there were about a dozen executives in the room, and they were still kind of listening to my voice. Does she fit in? And is this working? I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see them, and it was really, it's like they're judging me in front of me without me hearing what they're saying. It was,
Wow.
And it was a normal thing to do, but I felt like at any time they could say, thanks for everything, Nancy, but we're going to go a different way. It was an anxiety that I wish I wouldn't have had to live through. But meanwhile, it's also being in the room with the girls. So what I did with that, I wanted to make it okay for me too, because I'm going to have to be able to go to the studio and be with these actresses. How can I make it safe for me to be able to deliver what's needed here? So I came up with a bright idea, and it was the determining factor. And I went to the producers and I said, listen, here's the idea. I really want to do this. I want this job. I would love to do this for you guys, but here's the deal. Let's keep the door open for Chris. Because if Chris wants to come back, I'll do Chuckie for a year. I'll step in, put on little Chuckie's boots and put on his little shorts and his little t-shirt, and I'll become Chuckie for a year, for like a season, really. And if she decides, I made a mistake, I want to come back. And if she wants to come back, she can totally come back. And they said, wow, thank you. Sounds good. So for me, it's like, that's great. She's got 365 days. If at day 366, she says, look, I changed my mind, I want to come back, now it's too late. And that was it. And it made it okay for me to be able to be there and be able to create and now take what she gave me and duplicate what she did, and then me add some of my own nuances to Chuckie to make him my own.
and you made it your own because you know how live it is. Now you're running with Chuckie, and that's the beauty of it. Create for you. I want to talk about that because you have this amazing company that you created in 2020, one of the most challenging years I think in humanity that we have lived. Create for you with your partners, you know, it's just impressive because you have been supported by this great amazing group of Latinos, and you have created Create for You, plus you have, you know, Spotted Cow Entertainment that is yours, and you are creating these other amazing projects in addition to your well-established career. Talk to me a little about Create for You, because it's super exciting to be able to take a lot of stories and be able to give it to the world like you're currently doing.
Yeah, that's right. So what Create for You is, there are four of us, Jaime and Carolina Emmerich and Monica Gill. And what we do is we take already established popular intellectual properties from territories around the world, and we cultivate them, you know, with content creators for the American audience. So it's like going to Spanish-speaking countries, Mexico, South America, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and we take that content and we focus on rich and unique stories from all these areas, and the scripts, they're scripted or they're unscripted, they're programs focusing on Latinos. And it's a very underrepresented public in America, and it has been that way since the beginning of television. So it's like, it's timely right now, and we have been together as a company for a year and a half, and in that time we have, with the relationships that Jaime and Carolina have in Mexico, and Monica brings a whole nother skill set. She is amazing at kind of communication and management skills and networking with people, and comes up with bright ideas on how to work with this particular company and problem solving. She's a genius at these kinds of things. And each one of us has our own particular skill set that, take Jaime out of the picture, it wouldn't work. Take me out of the picture, it wouldn't work. Take Monica out, it wouldn't work. Carolina, it wouldn't work. So we have about close to 60 intellectual properties, of which about 7 or 8 of them are on a fast track right now. We've created incredible relationships with all the networks, and with Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and DreamWorks, ABC, CBS, NBC. It's very exciting.
It have to be very exciting because you being part of mega franchises, you know, as Rugrats and The Simpsons, but now you are passing that along. You are helping markets that right now being underserved currently in the United States and the entire world in regards of content consumption. And now we Create for You with such a great staff that everyone is complementing each other. You guys are taking this content and putting it into the world. You have to be very rewarding for you, Nancy, because you're doing the same thing with Masterclass, and you're passing along a lot as well with your knowledge and being able to give back through the Masterclass. That is amazing what you're doing too, and that's for voice actors and voice actresses. Like, do you are in a stage of your career now, Nancy, that you're looking just to create that second generation of content creators and voice actresses and voice actors and give back with the amazing career that you have and you still have with the knowledge and everything that you have learned from the show business?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like, well, let me just first say, when I got the call from Masterclass to do a Masterclass on animation, on voiceovers, I was completely honored by that, because there was no other class like that. There are several chefs. There are a lot of people there are a lot of directors, there are writers, there are actors that are on it, but no voice actors. And I was the first one that they invited, and maybe they'll invite some more. Maybe they'll have some animation directors on there. I think that would be incredible. So I was really honored at the beginning of it, and working with Masterclass was a real thrill because they are so professional, and I loved the whole experience. Typically, a Masterclass, I believe it takes about 3 days to produce one of the episodes, and with mine, because it ended up being fully animated, 95% animated, it took about 9 months to do it.
Wow.
And it was extensive, and collaborating with them on the style of the animation that they wanted to show, and setting up the entire all the chapters of how we released the teaching chapters. It was really at a time when most people are not working. Here I was working on this exclusive subscription show that I knew has a tremendous following. So the pressure was there, but I never felt any of that because it was so fun to do.
It have to be fun, but not only that, like, I have seen your work and what you're currently doing, impacting that generation and passing along that knowledge, and it have to be rewarding. And not only that, but being just an Emmy award winning voice actress, just have the career you have, and people being looking up to you, maybe when you were in the right place, right time. But not only that, but you have worked you have worked very hard to the place that you are currently. Nancy, I gotta say that it's tremendous that you in the business you're giving back. Sometimes we lost people before they are in that stage that they want to give back, but you're doing it alive, and still in the peak of your career, because you're still, now with the new series, of like Rugrats, new season, in Paramount Plus, it have to be very cool that you still are, giving back, but having your career and doing just what you love.
Thanks for saying that, Luis. It's very generous of you. I just, what else are we here for? I love what I do.
Sure.
I think it goes back to like goals and purposes in your own life. If you do what you love, how can you help it? Like, want to help people. I reached a point at a certain time. It was probably about 15 or 20 years ago when I was getting audition scripts and I didn't like any of them. This is for cable shows, sure. For cable television. And I didn't like the script. So I go, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to do that. And because I had the Simpsons, it was fine. My agents they want me to do it, but I had the luxury to be able to say, I don't want to do this one. Let's let somebody else have an opportunity. And that's what it really amounted to. I started rejecting more than I was auditioning for. And I realized, I think I'm in a transition place in my career right now. I think if I don't want to do it, by my not doing it, it's going to give the opportunity to some kid who's just starting out, whether it's a young man or a young woman. A voice is a voice. Whoever gets the job, they'll get the job, but it'll maybe jumpstart somebody's career. I was there at one time, and now I'm not there. I'm way beyond that now. And this was like 15, 20 years ago. So, it was just a transitional part of my life that I didn't really realize that that's what it was. I just felt like, I don't want to do this. Give it to somebody else.
And the cool part is that, an example now, you're doing that, and it's extremely cool in the stage that you are. Nancy, I know that you have a very busy day, and we're going to be closing pretty soon, but I have two more questions because it's interesting, from all the roles and characters that you have given life, what is the most valuable experience that you have taken, just being a tremendous voice actress, but being able to give life to Bart Simpson in The Simpsons, and now, with Chuckie Finster in the Rugrats, from those characters, what has been one of those unique experiences that you had in the studio that really reaffirms a lot the line of work, and that you're doing what you love, and that you're impacting people's lives? Do you have any one of those unique experiences that you said, wow, I was in the studio and I really had this thought, and this was my aha moment, like a lot of people say? Do you had one of those moments in any of this, in your roles that you have, especially now with Chuckie, that was so challenging and you said, I am in the correct place doing what I love?
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody's asked me this before. It's a really great question. It's going to surprise you, the answer, because it's not a voiceover job. I started. My kids had grown out of the house, and all my life, I like I told you earlier, when I was 10 years old, I had to make a decision, and this is common, and I think it's in all public schools. You have to decide. You can't do both music and art. You have to decide, because the rest of the time you're doing math, you're doing spelling, you're doing English, you're doing geography, history, you're doing all the required subjects, but you can have one. You can either do art or music. I had chosen music, and I have no apologies for that. No, I have no regret on that at all. Music has helped me tremendously. I know how to read music. I've conducted orchestras. It's served me very, very well, and I find it really fun. But there was always a part of me that I felt like there's an artist inside of me. And when I say artist, I mean I am an artist already with my voice, but I felt like I could paint, that I could sculpt. So late in my life, I started doing that. The first thing I started doing was sculpting. And a boyfriend at the time, I took a class, and I made something, and I surprised myself. I said, wow, I love this. I'm going to keep doing this. And then from that, I looked at my life and I said, wow, I wonder if I could paint. And then I'm kind of looking at the big picture of what I'm doing. And I'm in animation. I've never been an animation artist. I wonder what it would be like. I'd gotten a present from a friend of mine. I have to preface this. I'd gotten a present from a friend of mine. It was a magic box that he gave me. And I looked at it. I said, how did he do this? And I opened the lid of the box, and I looked at the bottom, and it looked like he painted it on the bottom of the box. But then when you shut it, that was the side that you viewed. And so my friend told me, he said, no, it's like animation art. It's like you reverse paint it. You paint it on the back, and then you view it from the front. And I'm thinking, wow, I'd like to do that. So I started fooling around with it, and I realized, wow, I can really do this. And so what I would do is I would do a sketch, or I would refer to some piece of art, and I would do it on paper first, and then I would put acrylic, just like latex or plastic overlay on top of it, and trace my sketch, do a better job on the thing, and then I would paint it and flip it over, and there it was. So I started a whole, I call it reverse painting. It's not super popular right now. It's not a forgiving art form. It's challenging. It can get scratched, and the paint doesn't actually soak in, so it can get scratched off. You have to protect it. And you have to think backwards when you do it. I have to write my name backwards because you're gonna flip it around and see it through the other side. So then what happened was a friend of mine asked me, this is like sounds so totally disrelated, but a friend said, hey, listen, I'm directing a documentary. Can we do it at your house? You have a beautiful home. Can we do it in your living room? And I said, yeah, of course. So what's a documentary about? And he said, it's about parents. It's all women. This time it's all women, but it's about parents who have lost their children to medication, to drugs.
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa, well that, okay, yes, you can do this at my house. So this one woman came and she told her story, and her daughter was the same age as my daughter. And I was so moved by this that it broke my heart that her daughter, there wasn't anything wrong with her. She was a straight A student. She was a cheerleader, 12 and a half years old, lots of friends, doing well in school, except when she took a test, she had anxiety, and it got to the point where it was extremely exaggerated, to the point where she couldn't even do the test anymore. She got so nervous, and she got sick because of it. So the parents took her to the school nurse. The school nurse didn't know what to do, prescribed another doctor. She went to the doctor, who then prescribed an antidepressant. And they put the girl on an antidepressant, and it was it didn't sit well with her at all. The girl had a real problem with this. This is heavy duty, Luis. So you know.
It's just
this is heavy duty stuff, and it's really hard to look at. But it didn't. Yeah. 7 weeks later, they changed the prescription. Instead of taking her off of it, they changed the prescription, and then 7 weeks later, the girl committed suicide, and it was.
Wow. It's It's just shocking.
Yeah.
That was hard.
And I'm in my living room listening to this mother, and she's reliving this whole incident. And my heart went out to her because I said before that her daughter is the same age as my daughter. And it just struck a truthful chord in me. And I said, how can I help? And then it took a while, a little bit of time, and I realized maybe through my art, maybe I can communicate a message through my art, some way to help. But this is a subject that, how can I do that? But aesthetics has a miraculous way of communicating. When you put beauty in front of you, you can watch the New York Ballet. You can see a ballet, and they can do Swan Lake, and you can see the death of a swan, and you can see beauty and how they do that. In a song, you can listen to opera, and it can make you cry because it is so beautiful. So I said, aesthetics is the way to go here. So I started practicing, and I looked at Andy Warhol, I looked at Van Gogh, I looked at another artist named Cleese Van Dongen, and I studied their art, and I started practicing, and I made a lot of mistakes with it, and then I came up with an idea for a campaign. And so I started creating art, and I developed a nonprofit called No More About Drugs. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm an artist. I do voiceovers, I paint, I sculpt, and if parents are confused and don't know what to do, and there's a real situation there, and they don't know what to do to help their child, I say go to my website and find out more. Find out the facts. It's an educational preventive site. So when you get some truth, and the truth, when I say get the facts are from the Food and Drug Administration and from the CDC, and you'll find they have medication guides that show the egregious side effects of prescription opioids and psychotropic drugs, so you can find out. And then go back to your doctor, have a conversation with your doctor, tell them what you found, and sort out. And there are other solutions besides putting a child on medication that you will have to find out.
And I was one of those kids that they wanted to put in, in drugs like Ritalin and all that because I had ADHD. Thankfully, my mom said no, and I'm still here, thankfully, and being able just to, have a good career and obviously have the podcast and, being able to have a career. But it's such an important, mission that you have with No More Drugs. Could you give us a website, Nancy, so people that they're listening can find out more about, your foundation?
Sure. It's nomoreaboutdrugs.com.
No More Drugs.
It's super nomoreaboutdrugs.com. It's super simple, and there's a lot of I have an amazing alliance there's 7 of us on the alliance. There's a psychologist, and there's a gal that works with the FDA, and several mothers who have lost their children. I'm surrounded by people who have a lot of experience in this area, and you see samples of my artwork that hopefully when you look at it, you can look at it and find out for yourself, if it moves you, so that you can be curious and find out more about it. There's videos, some other interviews that I did several years ago, where I'm with actually that mother, and she and I are doing a couple interviews together.
Wow, it's impressive.
Right now, especially right now, there's a real situation there, and they're not sure what to do. So I can just give you some facts so you can sort it out for yourself.
That's amazing. And I really commend you for that amazing work. Nancy, I know that you have to run. You have a very busy day. I wish that I can have you back. I think that there's a lot of topics that the thousands of people that they wrote to us before that they wanted to hear from you. But, time is limited today, unfortunately. But, a very quick message to everyone that they're listening to the podcast, that they have followed, respect your work, and you have impacted their lives in so many ways.
Sí, mucho gusto. I think appreciate you guys so much for like being a fan and listening to what I have to say. Luis, I admire what you do. You have an incredible podcast. All of your listeners, they're so dedicated. You bring on I'm just saying you bring on very interesting people that you have yourself earned that that level of popularity in the industry. So thank you for being there.
No, thank you again, Nancy. Love to have you back. This is your house anytime. And we love to see you again back with Chuckie Finster in the Rugrats. Go to Paramount Plus and just watch this amazing season. Again, please follow Nancy Cartwright in her Instagram. Amazing account. I follow her. So much respect for you, Nancy. And everyone that they're listening, please follow us in all social media accounts. And we'll see you guys next time in Dialogo with Luis Otero.